Okay, so why then? Let's talk about the like what causes people to leave their window of tolerance or reasons for leaving. The way I would say it, because I really like simplifying things, is fear. Fear is the why. And the fear is toward uncertainty, the fear is towards insecurity, and the fear might be a bodily response that happens from like earlier trauma. Just trying to simplify it, those are the things I would say: uncertainty, insecurity, and bodily reactions. Okay, so then let's get into the most important thing here. Staying in and strengthening your window of tolerance, because it's one thing to try to stay in, but it's another thing to actually even try to expand it and strengthen it. Like I said, if I'm looking at myself down here on the screen, I want to try to push that window out and stretch it out. I'm doing like a mime now. Pushing it out, strengthening it. Okay, so so staying in is great, but if all you're doing is staying in, eventually you're just not growing, and you're going to end up leaving, and probably at best maintain the current size of your window of tolerance or capacity for resilience, but likely regress and make it worse. So, okay. Some quick things here. So mindfulness, grounding, and breathing techniques. These are, there's so many different versions of these. If you're not one of my clients and you happen to be watching this, simply stay on YouTube, click grounding exercises, and you're going to see 1,000 videos. Stay on YouTube, click breathing exercises, and you're going to find a bunch of them. I like Wim Hof's breathing exercise. And then there's mindfulness work in there too. There's so many different variations of it, and though some of it is kind of wackadoodle, and some of it feels like wackadoodle, but is awesome. There's a lot of that work where it's weird and it's incredible, and it's highly effective. And just because it's weird doesn't mean it's not effective. In fact, if there's some element of weirdness to it, it means you're just naturally challenging your window of tolerance anyway, and your sense of your over analytical brain trying to come in and decipher all the ways this isn't going to work for you. Mindfulness, grounding exercises, breathing techniques, prayer is very important, and then my personal bias is EFT tapping. One of the most effective immediate ways to get yourself grounded within minutes. You can get yourself where you're aroused at a state, hyper aroused at a state of like 10, and get yourself to a 2 or a 3 or a 4 within minutes. And I've seen it happen. I've done it myself. I do this practice myself. Prayer is highly effective as well. What I will say with EFT is the basic function that I follow and I teach my clients is through the tapping solutions protocol, and all the protocols work, man. I'll be honest with you, they're all work. I prefer the tapping solutions because it's very simplistic. Okay. Now we have the next line here. So sleep, nutrition, exercise, and community of like-minded individuals. So sleep is huge, and I think more and more people are kind of starting to talk about it as we have more studies coming out about sleep and its importance of mental health. That seems obvious, and it seems like everybody knows it, but they still don't really pay too much attention to it as a modality or a medicinal property to be able to use to help with mental health and your overall window of tolerance, which is unfortunate. But yeah, sleep is highly effective, but there's so much stuff already out there. Matthew Walker is a really good source. You can look at Matthew Walker, but there's a lot of stuff on sleep hygiene that will help give you some good practical tools on helping improving your sleep. If you have better sleep, you're more likely to make better decisions in life, which is nutrition. I want to talk about nutrition as a whole, and nutrition as a whole is this kind of unsung hero in the nutritional or in the mental health field. You can look and see anecdotal stories over and over and over and over and over of people changing up their nutrition to something that really functions appropriately for their body and their mental health conditions changing significantly. I'm not telling you to change your diet to some specific diet and then stop taking your medication. Again, I'm no medical advice here. What I'm telling you is your body likely has a certain nutritional standard that it would feed off of very well. And if you can find that nutritional standard that it can feed off very well, your mental health is going to be all the better for it. If you have a eating disorder and stuff, that's something where you need to work on with a nutritionist and identify the best modality for you in that. I'm not even going to speak on that. That's too much. But what I'll say is nutrition is paramount for mental health. No matter what your mental health condition is, it's paramount. The next one is obvious, is exercise. Everybody knows exercise helps your mental health. What people still, even though they know that, they're like, yeah, exercise, so you can lose some weight, and it always goes back to image, which is really weird. They know it's good for the mental health, but then they talk about exercise for image. And I think that's not a sustainable way of implementing exercise into your life for the most part. To me, I always try to encourage exercise with clients. So think of exercise as a medicinal way of helping with your mental health. So if I can exercise and as a result, I feel better mentally, like my serotonin levels are more improved. I feel better about my sort of experience in life. I'm able to have a little bit more gratitude towards things. That's all mental health as far as its paramount reason to exercise. As a result, you're going to get symptomology within your physical well-being as well, but that's just symptomology. I encourage my clients to use exercise paramount for their mental health well-being, right? And then get the symptomology of the physical well-being that happens as a result. Maybe someday I'll share a story on here of my whole journey within that. Let's move on into community of like-minded support. So it's huge. We're pack animals. We thrive and survive off of one another. We build each other up. When we're around a pack that we shouldn't be around, and they don't build us up and they don't support us, we also hate that, and we lump that into a category of all people. That's problematic. So what I'm going to say is a community of like-minded people, people that are going to support you in your endeavor. So if your endeavor is sobriety, then you're going to be around other sober people who want you to be sober. There's people that support you. I always say support you in one of two ways. There's two types of support systems in sobriety. There's one where a person's going to pat you on the back and be like, man, I support you. I got your back. Like, you're doing great. You got this. And you're going to be like, cool, 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 cool. But I could really use a beer. And they're like, yeah, cool. Like, I'm going to support you in that. Whatever you need, I got you. So here's this beer, right? That's one type of support. And then there's the other type of support that's like, says all the same stuff. I support you. I got your back, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, cool, cool, cool. I want some support. Can you give me a beer? Like, I really need a drink. And then they look at you like you're crazy, and they're about to pop you in the mouth. And they say, you ever ask me again, like, we're not hanging out. Like, don't you ever put me in that situation again. I might just break your nose next time you ask me that. That's the one you want to stay with in terms of like-minded support. So you want to be around the people that are really going to help you stay accountable, help you when you're hurting and you're suffering. They've been there, done that. Maybe that's helpful too. Like maybe they've been around the block in a similar block that you're kind of currently roaming around in. And so you want to be in that. And then even more so, if you think again within us being as pack animals, you want to put yourself on the inside of that pack as much as possible. Don't be grazing around on the outside of the pack. In any sort of hunting wildlife video, if you look at the bison that huddle up when they're running together and they're being chased by a cheetah or something, the ones who's the safest is in the middle, right? So be the one in the middle within your pack, in your community. Get into the middle of it. Invest yourself into the middle of it. And then challenging your window of tolerance would be the people who say, well, I don't want to invest that, or I don't like being around people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how you build your window of tolerance in that socially. Just do it anyway. Okay. Counter self-critical negativistic thinking with reality thinking. So I'm going to leave a link in the video show notes talking about specifics of reality thinking. This is something that I developed in my own experience, and I'm sure there's another name for it that exists. I'm sure there's some other fancier name that some psychologist out there has developed and honed in on, and that's their specialty, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. That's not my intention. It's just something that I developed on my own and something that I recognized within my own connecting to myself, working on my window of tolerance, battling the internal negative thoughts, the self-critic that's in there, that's like, you suck, you're stupid, you're an imposter, you're no good, you're whatever that voice wants to say. It's something that I worked on myself, and I began to develop on. Next thing is self-help. So I'm just talking about different modalities of therapy here on this fourth line. So self-help is one form. So 12-step programs are fantastic. There's other recovery and self-help programs out there too. There's other self-help programs that have nothing to do necessarily with addiction or substance abuse. There's ones on codependency. There's ones there's trauma. There's like grief counseling, and a bunch of self-help stuff out there, and a lot of it's really good. Some of it you got to be kind of wary of. You don't want to join a cult, but yeah, some good stuff out there for the most part. Listen to your intuition. Maybe check in with people within your community of like-minded support if you feel like you're in a cult. There's your note for the day. Okay, then you have somatic and traditional therapies. So we have traditional therapies like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and when I say traditional therapy, essentially I'm saying talk therapy. And so that's great. And I'm going deeper and further along with somatic therapies too. And there's several different types of somatic therapies. My particular one that I am certified in is brain spotting. And I'm a certified brain spotting practitioner. And obviously, you know what my bias is, but EMDR is probably the most popular form of that. And then there's other ones. Okay, then body work. I think body work is good. There's different forms of body work, everything from like chiropractic work to massage, and then there's like tone body work stuff. There's all types of different fun body work stuff out there, and I think a lot of it's fun. There's a lot of body work stuff out there, and the body work begins to naturally kind of coincide with the somatic stuff, so maybe that's why I have some bias in that. But okay. And then lastly, what I'll say here is do hard things despite the fear of failure. So I guess if you've only watched this one video, you haven't heard me say it yet, but I always tell people chase after failure, run it down. And the reason why I say that is because I think no matter what, you're going to be dealing with it. So you could either lay on the ground in the fetal position, let it kick you in the stomach and in the ribs and beat the tar out of you and bully you, or you can begin to chase it down and you can attack it. And what you're going to find out is failure is really fast, it's super athletic, and it's hard to chase down. But you're going to have success sometimes in chasing it down. You're going to be able to grab it by its ankle, yank it down, and be able to meet it. And when you meet it, it's going to suck. Even if you chase it down, it still sucks. So I don't want to lie to you about that. However, when you chase it down and you learn from that failure, then that was the opportunity to grow and get better and grow your window of tolerance. So what's going to happen most of the time, though? I'll tell you, most of the time you're going to find success. Most of the time you set a goal towards something and you chase it down really hard, you try it out, you're gonna find a level of success in it. And when you do fail, again, you will learn something so that eventually you can attain the goal or the standard that you're seeking. So because I'm a meathead or something, I always have these athletic and sports oriented metaphors, but here we go. So if you were to go out and let's say you don't exercise whatsoever, and you're like, hey, Kenny, I'm going to go out and I'm going to bench press 300 pounds. I'm going to say, no, don't do it. Like, I highly recommend you not to do that. What I would recommend is, I'm just saying metaphors here, so I'm not giving you medical advice, but what I would recommend is you go to the gym and then you start lifting the bar. And then lift the bar so many times that you can no longer lift it. That's what, 45 pounds. And then, and then 4 days later, 3-4 days later, repeat that, but add a little bit of weight onto it. And then 3 or 4 days later, repeat that, but, add 5 pounds onto each side. Then the next day, repeat that, but maybe add add 10-pound plates onto each side. And then next day, repeat that, and then add that cumulative, but also add maybe 2.5-pound plates on each side or whatever. And what's happening there? You're going out and you're taking your muscle skeletal system, you're taking your muscles and you're ripping them up. You're breaking them down. You're tearing them up. And then you're given 3 or 4 days in order for them to repair and recover. And then you're rinsing and repeating, right? And what are you doing? You're taking that muscle and you're making it stress itself so much and recover. And each time it recovers, it becomes a little bit more adapted than it previously was. So it becomes just a little bit stronger than it previously was. And by doing that consistently over a long period of time, then eventually maybe you're bench pressing your 300 pounds or whatever your goal was. So the same sort of thing within the window of tolerance. Within the window of tolerance, you do want to push out that window. You want to you want to push it out, challenge it, and as a result, you're going to leave your window. You're going to fail. And then pull yourself back in through all these different myriad of techniques we just talked about, and then do it again. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and do it consistently over and over and over. And as a result, you are going to strengthen your window of tolerance. It's inevitable. Just as much as misery is inevitable, you are going to face misery. Not to speak negativity over you, but man, you're going to face it today. You're going to drive out and you're going to be in a hurry and you're going to hit a red light at the most inopportune time. That's one form of misery, and you may think, okay, no big deal. That's not a big problem. Well, maybe because your window of tolerance is adapted to that. But if you do that over and over and over and over and over, and now you're running 15 minutes late, now what's that red light look like? Well, if you're still breathing through it calmly, then your window of tolerance is adapted to it. But if you're not, and you're flipping out, and you're having all these sorts of ridiculous thoughts, like, I have the worst luck in the world, or God hates me, or these lights are just out to get me, which is totally irrational, and you're spilling your feelings too much, you're in your hyper-arousal state, you're outside of your window of tolerance. There we go. Okay, so that's window of tolerance in a nutshell. If you feel like this is going to be helpful for a family, friend, or etc., feel free to share it. Again, my intentionality behind these is not to grow some YouTube page, because I'm frankly not going to invest my time into it. So that's if I get a couple of subscribers or something, cool. But if these videos reach people and they're helpful for their recovery and sobriety, then that's awesome. That's very cool. Whether you're my client or not, that would be really cool. Okay, I'm going to end it now.